Adventure travel is like dancing next to a fire. It's exciting, it's warm, but sooner or later, you're gonna get burned. So in this video, I want to talk about some of the things that could go wrong with your trip. Sometimes there are minor inconveniences, sometimes they're absolute showstoppers, and what you can do to mitigate the risk and to have a plan B in place if those situations do occur. When I was a young pilot, one of the common questions I'd have amongst my family and friends is, what do you do if something goes wrong in the airplane? And my common response was, well, you know, I love to fly and I also love to camp. So if I'm flying along and something happens with the airplane, well, I'm not flying anymore. I'm just camping. So in the spring of 1987, I was flying out to the western part of the state of Virginia to participate in a search and rescue exercise with the Civil Air Patrol. I was flying a Civil Air Patrol airplane, and 8 minutes later, I was no longer flying an airplane, I was camping. And I became the subject of an actual search and rescue mission. Had an engine failure, had to land in the cornfield, but fortunately my obsessive compulsive planning, even back then, meant that I had my pack with me and my survival equipment. So while the rescuers were combing through the back roads of Virginia trying to find our location, we were sitting under the shade of the wing, munching on some snacks and drinking water and just patiently waiting on them. But fortunately for me, I had a very good flight instructor. Thank you, Jay Milrose, wherever you are, from Langley Air Force Base Aero Club back in the 70s. He was obsessive, compulsive, and downright sadistic when it came to emergency procedures. We practiced them over and over and over again, to the point that when I was landing in this cornfield, I swear I could hear his voice screaming commands as I was touching down in the field. So training does pay off. Now, the type of things that could possibly go wrong with your trip are simply too numerous to mention in this video, but we can break them down into categories and have a plan for those type of categories. The first category are environmental problems, things that happen outside you and your machine. An example of this would be weather conditions, road conditions, intervention from unwanted third parties, such as you go to dinner and somebody breaks into your hotel room and steals some of your personal belongings. The next category could be mechanical issues, such as a flat tire, running out of gas, other mechanical breakdown. And the last category is personal issues. If you were to become sick or injured, or have a personal emergency at home, which means you have to stop your trip and get back home as fast as you can to deal with that personal family emergency. Now, when we try to anticipate what can go wrong in a trip, they fall into three additional categories of severity. One would be a mild situation. I like to refer to that as a self-rescue. You have a flat tire on the side of the road. Or as we had to do, we had to reroute our trip after the Willow Creek Pass incident where we got hypothermia and needed to just cut that day short and check into a hotel. Those are irritating, they're inconvenient, but they're solvable. Then the next level of severity is the intermediate category. This is when you need the assistance from other people, such as a trip to the urgent care, a trip to your local mechanic, or hopefully not, but even a trip to your local police station. Now, the last category of severity is what I call an absolute showstopper. This is when the trip is over and you need to figure out how to get home and get your machine home, such as the coronavirus, a severe mechanical breakdown, a personal injury that results in a broken limb that you can no longer operate your vehicle, and you need to figure out some other way to get it home and get yourself home. And the worst case scenario that I could possibly think of is that dreaded family emergency where you needed to just park your machine and get home as fast as humanly possible. If you travel enough, these situations will occur. So next question is, what do you do to help mitigate these problems, to develop a plan B, put systems in place so when these situations do pop up, you're somewhat ready for them because you've thought about them in advance? You need to know your own limitations. I know that I can probably hike 10 miles without too much difficulty. I'll be a little tired, a little sore, but if the situation requires me to hike 20 miles to open terrain without any equipment, probably not going to happen without some sort of assistance from other people if they can find me in time. Next is give yourself a fudge factor. When I was flying airplanes, even the small general aviation airplanes had a takeoff performance chart that you had to use to determine exactly how much runway you would need on a given day with the given parameters. We were always taught to give yourself a significant fudge factor. I had a personal limitation that whatever the computation said I would need for runway length, I would add 30% to it. It's a lot more comforting to watch trees pass under you from several hundred feet as it is to watch them pass under the landing gear with 2 or 3 feet to spare. Next is use technology to your advantage, such as weather radar. Weather radar apps for your smartphone are free and they're very handy. You can look at a dark cloud on the horizon and take a look at the radar and determine, are we going to need to just put on some rain gear and ride through it? Are we going to need to stop and take an early lunch? Or are we going to need to check into a hotel because this is not going to clear up until tomorrow? So use technology to your advantage. Next, and this should be common sense, is have a first aid kit. Not a big full-blown trauma kit unless you happen to be trained in that sort of thing, but a basic first aid kit. And know some basic first aid. It doesn't hurt to understand how CPR works. I've done CPR in real life once in my life, and it was a very successful incident, and it was worth the training that I had to go through for the years and years and years to practice that. Don't be like the people I recently saw in the news. A young man had a laceration on his leg. It wasn't an issue. It wasn't even really bleeding. But the untrained people with him that had some medical supplies that thought it was a good idea to put a tourniquet on his leg. Now, a tourniquet is designed to stop bleeding and keep you from bleeding to death. Once you apply a tourniquet, there's a reasonable chance you're going to lose the limb. And the tourniquet for this young man had the potential of doing significantly more damage, even potentially even costing him his life, than it was actually solving. So have an understanding of basic first aid and take a first aid kit with you. Tools. Have some basic tools with you. If you're mechanically inclined, it doesn't hurt to have some tools to address the most common mechanical malfunctions you'll run into. On the Spyder, the most common thing that I can think of that would possibly happen is I have a flat tire. For that, I carry a patch kit, I carry a can of Fix-A-Flat, I have a small air compressor, and I have a roadside assistance program through my insurance company that will take my Spyder to the nearest shop that's authorized to work on Spyders in the event that I have a flat tire or some other mechanical breakdown. Now, clearly the Spyder is too small a vehicle for me to carry my entire tool collection, and plus I'm not really interested in doing major engine repair on the side of the road. I would leave that to the folks in the shop while I'm sitting in the nearest pub sipping a nice single malt scotch. Be financially prepared for the worst case scenario. During the Asphalt Odyssey of 2019, one of the things that concerned me, it was either a family member getting sick or injured and requiring me to fly home. What was I going to do? Well, I had thought about this in advance. I'd contacted the Jackrabbit self-storage chains and found out that I can actually park the Spyder and the trailer inside of a Jackrabbit facility, lock the doors, get to an airport and get a ticket home, fly home, deal with the situation there, then eventually fly back, pick up the Spyder, and go home again. So that was my worst case scenario for that scenario. But what if you have a mechanical breakdown or you're injured and you simply can't operate your machine? Well, you have a couple of choices. You can have it shipped back. That causes some problems of its own because that's rather expensive and there is a delay time. If you call a shipping broker to have your machine shipped, there's probably going to be a 4-day lag time that you're going to have to set into a hotel room and wait for them to come pick it up. Then you have to get an airline ticket home, and you can't buy the airline ticket until the last minute because you don't know exactly when they're going to come and pick up your machine. The third option is something a friend of mine did when she moved her Can-Am Spyder from central United States back into the Virginia area. She used a U-Haul truck. Now, you probably think it's very difficult to get a Can-Am Spyder into the back of a U-Haul truck. It is a little bit tricky. What she did was contacted a tow truck company that had a flatbed tow truck. She had the Spyder put on the flatbed raised up and backed up to the U-Haul truck, and they simply backed the Spyder in, secured it, and she was able to drive the U-Haul truck back to Virginia. That is a pricey endeavor, but it is something to think about in the event you have a major mechanical problem or an injury that prevents you from operating your machine. The we talked about human intervention that could cause some problems. What if your credit card gets compromised? It happens a lot. I've had several of mine compromised. And you're on a trip and you have to call your credit card company, cancel the credit card, and now you're stuck without a easy way to pay for your trip or to get cash out of the bank. I recommend at least one backup form of credit card or debit card. I like to travel with two, and I use one predominantly for going to get gas, restaurants, hotels. In the event that credit card number gets compromised, I can switch to a backup while I address having a replacement issued for the first card. So in summary, I like to anticipate the risks before they actually occur, have a strategy or a system in place to deal with those risks, prepare in advance for things that I can actually do, like carrying toolkits and first aid kits, and simply accept things that can't be changed, whether it be the windstorm or the ice storm in Wolf Creek Pass. Sometimes you just got to grit your teeth and deal with it. As the folks in special warfare say, sometimes you just have to embrace the suck. So that's going to be about it for today's video. I hope you found it informative. And if you have any questions or any ideas of things I didn't cover that you would like to see covered in future videos, whether it be along this topic or other topics, just put them in the comments below. I'd appreciate it. And as always, if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you don't like it, of course, give it a thumbs down. And please, if you like it, don't forget to subscribe. It gives us motivation to go out and create more content for you folks who enjoy traveling and like to address problems before they pop up. Thanks for watching. Y'all take care. Bye-bye.